start the live a little early. I don't think anyone's going to be here. What's up, Matt? How are you? That you might already have answered on your channel. That would be 2 questions, Matt. So I don't know. Ask away, buddy. Ask away. Bye. What's up, Troy? How are you this evening? What the fuck? Susan from Jersey. What's up, lady? Tigger's in here with me. He's hanging out. Laying on the floor over here. Snoring away. Poppy from Sweden, how are you? He's either snoring or he's got OCPD. I'm not sure which. My ex-wife used to chain smoke when he was a baby. She used to smoke cigarettes with him in the room. What's up, SDL? John Sumner, how are you? Carrie, how are you? Sully! JP, Jesse, good. We almost did not have a live stream. Hang on, now he wants to leave. Go on, buddy. Good boy. Oh, good boy. We almost did not have a live stream tonight. I don't know what happened. I'm getting up, getting everything finished, got some encounters ready here. And all of a sudden, my internet just fucking shut off. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? I'm not going to go into that, Matt, because that's already been answered on my channel. And it's just a big drama thing. In the early 80s with the daughter, the son, and the husband and wife, there was no survivor. Tim Kuhnbo answered that. Victor answered that. That's about as far as I will go on that. I know that there's someone that claims to be a survivor. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know how you can survive shooting a dog man with a 410, but that's about as far as I will go on that. If he did, and he's lucky. That's all I can say. Don't know him, and I wasn't there, so I'm not sure. As you can tell, I don't like drama, so I just avoided that whole thing, kind of like a gypsy dance, baby. Dude, people are messing with me bad. It's not good. Janie's going to be here tonight. Janie is going to be here tonight. I talked to her today. I spoke with the channel's godmother tonight. I got some really good lot lizard stories for us. I got some really good ones. Or as the kids say nowadays, I got some bangers. And I got a pretty good stack of encounters. Savage Lunatic, how are you? What's up, Pinch? How are you, buddy? And I've got the Mexican coca. Exactly. What's up, Luke? How are you, Pro Ninja Elite? John, how are you? Cynthia is in the house. DB Mac, what's going on, my friend? The cop is. He was outside earlier today. He always parks like it right down. There's another one just went by. The only time he ever parks like in front is if there's a few cars parked further up the road than him. I've only had it like happen once to where he was like right in front of my house. There's Janie. How are you, Janie? What's up, pups? How are you? I got it going. Scooby Dooby Doo. Where are the most dangerous cryptid? That's a theory question. Because there is no expert in this field, so it's all based on what your opinion is and what how you feel about it all. My own thing, I would say, would be a crawler or dogman. San Bernardino. You know what's crazy is, what's up, Tyler? How are you? George, how are you? Simone. What's weird is New Mexico just had a snowstorm last week, and now California, San Bernardino. But it's higher elevations, so. But the New Mexico one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Wesley September, how are you? I don't know. I honestly wouldn't know if I ever saw a synthetic clone robot. How would you know unless it malfunctioned? That's weird because I think let me see something. Mount Marcy elevation, New York.
Here's a map of Mount Marcy, Keene, New York, 12943.
5,344 feet. Temperature in Mount Marcy, New York.
It's 35 degrees in Mount Marcy right now.
It's snowing up in Mount Marcy. So it is snowing in upstate somewhere. Shit. Delirium, how are you feeling tonight? Marty, Rich, Janie. I'm so happy to see Janie. We missed you so much. You do live close to Mount Marcy. Well, not that close. North. You live north, but you still gotta hike. You gotta kind of hike it east to get to Marcy. You live closer than I do to Marcy. No, about the same. About the same, I'd say. Hang on 1 second. I'll tell you right now. I'm not gonna disclose your information of where you live to Mount Marcy. So it's a 2-hour and 50-minute drive from where you are. Glens Falls, New York to Mount Marcy, New York. And it's a 63-minute drive for me. So I'm closer. Ha beat ya. Actually, Matt, that's a funny question that you asked that, because Troy, I didn't think I was that close to Marcy either, but Matt, that's a crazy question that you asked that, because I just bought a new SD card reader for that purpose. So yes, just got back home from the hospital. Oh, geez, I'm delirium. I'm glad that you're here with us. 3Cat, how are you? Robert Sharp, what's up? And Anthony Splatz. Sorry, buddy. I'm glad that you enjoyed the channel. Thank you. Please don't hate me for calling you the wrong last name. But that's a cool last name if it was Splats. Because then you'd be like, Splats. I didn't think it was 63 minutes, but yeah, my mom hiked it when she was pregnant for me. So, and my dad doesn't like wasting money, so I doubt he would drive 2 hours to go on a hike. My dad would be like, it cost me fucking $5 back in 1976 to get to Mount Marcy. I don't want to ever do it again. Steve O Outdoors. Claire Harris, I am doing well. I hope you're doing well. Alligator, MJ Richards, how are you? Clint Eastwood, what's going on, buddy? DL Hemingway, how are you? What's up, Eddie? How are you? Thanks, Clint. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you so much. Kimberly Ann, welcome to the live. What's up, Danny? How are you? Danny. Clint, thank you again. Eddie, doing a little microdosing tonight. Eddie, I took some shrooms tonight, he says. Little microdosing. Little do we know he took a fucking half ounce. He's like, ah. Imagine. Pro Ninja. What did you like? Were you like living in a house up there or off gridding or what? Did you see anything weird? Was there anything kind of strange? What's up, Tommy? Dustin. That's what she said, Robert Sharp. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, buddy. I hope you feel better. That was a terrible joke. Not really. Shackle Neck, what's going on, buddy? Maggie Mayhem. Well, he just left himself open for it, you know? Susan, he just left. He's like, I'm sore. What am I supposed to say? Right? Margie, there she is. How are you tonight, dear? I do have some black-eyed kid for you, Randy Man, Motorboat Champ. How are you, buddy? We are 3 minutes into the live. Anthony, thank you so much. All right, so let's start this night off. You know what? Let's start the night off with a black-eyed children story. How about that? Just give me a second and let me find her. Let me find her. Oh, that's a good one too, right there. I think I redid that one a while ago though, but I don't care. You guys are gonna hear it again. I don't give a fuck. I got one that. Carla, how are you? Here it is. Here it is. What's up, dear? How are you? Three Cat Mom, how are you? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Isabel and I have had some weird shit happen at the house lately. And then I'll get into the black-eyed kid story. Erica Danforth, how are you? So, all right, I don't know if you can see it, but I did talk about it the other day in one of my uploads. But you see, it's a faint scratch now. But the other day, it was pretty, it happened on Tuesday. It happened on Tuesday. Me and Belle and her boyfriend went and hung out and did some stuff. We came back to the house and I looked at my arm and I'm like, that I have like a weird scratch on my arm. We had been home for about an hour and I'm trying to think if I had scratched my arm on anything. And I'm like, I didn't scratch my arm on anything. What's up, Widmore? How are you, buddy? So I had these two lines and it went from like up here all the way to a little past my elbow. And I showed Isabel and I'm like, look, bud, I'm like, check this out. And she goes, no way. And she, on her inner arm, she had a scratch mark that was 3 lines. Her boyfriend got one on his leg. The kitten, Belle's kitten, went flying through the air the other day. Like it did not jump. It was standing on its cat tree. I'm watching it. Like I'm looking at him because he's so goddamn cute. I'm looking at him and I'm just like, oh. And all of a sudden, somehow he went from standing in front of the shade to behind the shade and like launched out. And he hit like the floor, part of the floor in the bed where the bed and the floor meet. And then Tigger fell down the stairs the other night. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? It was really weird. And I knew I was pissed when like they mess with me, mess with Belle. Just kidding, buddy. But don't mess with the cats. Like when they messed with the kitten was so weird. And Tigger, obviously, but the kitten I saw with my eyes. Like he was standing, he's got a tree, he's got the cat tree, he's on the top tier. Behind it is the shade, right? And it's like tight to the window. Somehow I'm looking at him. And it was like so fast. Like he was in front of it and then behind it and then launched out within all seconds. And I'm like, holy fuck. Oh, so weird. Yes, I am, Matt. Yes, I am. All right. Delirium, thank you so much. What happens at the gifting stone stays at the gifting stone. Accept STDs. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you're here with us and feeling better. And that was by far the funniest fucking joke of the night so far. So thank you. What's up, Nick Hendricks? And then Isabel's got these we have like a rubber duck army. Belle has some rubber ducks. I have some rubber ducks. And we have a little army. And she has like 18, I have 15. And there's one that's square that they keep moving on her. And my Bigfoot statue keeps moving. Delirium, thank you. Let's start this night off right now. Here we go. Black-eyed kids out of Sydney, Australia. Simone, watch your back. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I live near Sydney, Australia, in a busy suburb. One afternoon, I was asleep as I work nights. There was a knocking at my front door. I had to walk down the stairs to answer. Whoever was knocking was very persistent, so I just couldn't ignore it. I went down and looked through the spy hole. Holy shit. Charles, thank you so much. Wow. Thank you very much. You guys are fucking amazing. Thank you. All right, I'm going to start over again. I live near Sydney, Australia, in a busy suburb. One afternoon, I was asleep as I work nights, and there was knocking on the front door. I had to walk down the stairs to answer. Whoever was knocking was very persistent, so I couldn't just ignore it. I went down and looked through the spy hole, and I saw two young girls. I couldn't see much of them and asked what they wanted. One said, "We're hurt. Let us in. We're hurt." I couldn't make out their faces, and then I noticed there was blood on their hands. I opened the door, and they hurried in. I'm still a bit groggy from sleep, but I saw blood on their clothes and hands. I asked where their parents were, and they just said far away. I told them I would call an ambulance and turned to get my phone. As I did, the brown-haired girl grabbed my arm with a lot of strength and told me not to go. I was taken aback by this. I looked at her face and I saw that she had pure black eyes. This freaked me out. I pulled out of her grasp a little too hard and I went to grab my phone that was in the next room. This all occurred within under a minute, and I was quite shocked that this was happening. When I got back, they were gone. I checked the house. They had vanished. I ran out of the front door and down the stairs to look down the street, and there was nothing. I was thinking to myself that I must be stuck in a dream. I thought that until I got to my steps and I saw blood stains on my front door. Then saw the blood on my arm that was not mine. I told my wife when she got home, and she showed me the black-eyed kids info on the internet. I'd never heard of them before. I had a few bruises on my arm from when that child grabbed me. It lasted a few days later. So my thing is I always thought you had to invite them in. I didn't think opening the door to them was inviting them in, unless he left that out, like he opened the door and said, "Come in." But I mean, they just bum rushed in. I didn't think they could do that. I thought they needed the permission prior to. That's, from what I've always, heard from, and I've known about these suckers for probably as long as all of you guys, when I first heard about them on Jesus, I think it was like Unsolved Mysteries or some shit like that a long time ago. Charles, what if you have a welcome mat on your front door? That would suck too, because then if a vampire came to your house, you're screwed, right? It's time to just get the fuck off, Matt. Me too. Maura, how are you tonight? What's up, T, baby? The fuck off, Matt. That's great. What's up, Sean McCabe? How are you, buddy? Yeah, they've been around for a long time. You don't really need undisputed proof. They exist. Everybody that's seen them knows there is. This has been a concept for I've been doing this for 30 years and researching it and looking into it. And it's been that question has been asked for longer on Bigfoot and stuff. It doesn't matter. We will never hear, unless it gets so out of hand, the UFOs and all of that phenomena, to where the government has to. Technically, they did admit to it when Skinwalker at the Pentagon came out, because when Axelrod wrote that book, that had to go through Department of Homeland Security for a pre-read. And he talks about dogmen being in his yard. So, and it's not a work of fiction, because if it was a work of fiction, it wouldn't have to go through Department of Homeland Security. What's up, Mindy Weeks? Mindy Weeks, sorry. How are you? Wiley, what's going on, buddy? Necromonicon. Steph Davis, how are you? Shackle Neck. I've been looking at that book that you sent me. Dude, that thing is savage. I love it. Delirium. I was referencing Skinwalker in the Pentagon. It's kind of like the second part to Hunt for the Skinwalker. But in my eyes, Hunt for the Skinwalker is all basic information that we all know. It's a good read, but Skinwalker in the Pentagon is far greater. Like the information is, it talks about the Mormon church and stuff by the Skinwalker Ranch, people in the church encountering these creatures, police in the area encountering these creatures. $86. All right, here we go. This happened to me in 2018 at a sleepaway camp, and it still sends shivers down my spine. I've always had a passion for the supernatural and the idea of cryptids roaming the forest, but I've always kept my guard up since this encounter. So to set the scene, I was on a winter camping retreat with my church called the Ice Camp, and we traveled to a place called Camp Michanda, located just outside of Hillsdale, Michigan. The first night was pretty much uneventful, but we got to explore the campgrounds at night as well as get settled into our cabins. However, all the joy was taken out when we were told never to explore the campgrounds alone at night, or the monsters would get us. For a bunch of rowdy teenage boys, we just laughed that off and went to bed. The morning was uneventful, but one detail about where my cabin is. It was across the large lake with a relatively small footbridge connecting our cabin with the main lodge and all of the other cabins. So in the main dining hall, one of the cabins mentioned how last night none of them got sleep because something was howling in the woods near the section called the Western Town. My cabin didn't believe them for 1 second. And we just told them that it was coyote or wolves since there has been gray wolf sighting near the camp. However, the teens telling us this were shaken up, and they were adamant that it was something else, and we joked that it was Bigfoot. So they told us, my cabin, to shut the F up, and we did. As the day progressed, my cabin and counselor had done activities to keep us interested. However, the evening would be the worst night of our lives. It was around midnight. We set up a bonfire to sit around and reflect upon the sermon that had been given. Shortly after that, we began to talk about some random stuff. When we heard a bunch of coyote, we thought nothing of it. Then it went dead quiet in the span of maybe a couple of minutes. Then we heard one of the most guttural howls that sounded like a human being murdered mixed with a wolf. This made us all jump up, but we wanted answers to what we had heard, so my counselor, myself, and 2 other cabin mates entered the woods with a 200 lumen flashlight. We had pretty good visibility, and at first, we didn't find anything. Then, way off into the distance, the furthest area the flashlight could reach, we saw a pair of eyes, red, glowing, looking at us. And as it got closer, we thought we saw wolves, but the movements were unnatural. It was more like a person down on all fours. My counselor told us to move away slowly. The creature kept approaching. And before I could remember, the second one stood up and began to charge us. We ran as fast as we could. We yelled to our cabin mates to get their asses in the cabin. And of course, they were confused as to why we were running until they heard the same howl as earlier. We all hauled ass into the cabin from the bonfire across the footbridge, but we stopped halfway because we thought it wouldn't go any closer until we heard wood creaking rapidly. My entire cabin booked it once again. This time up into the cabin, we bolted the door shut. Whatever had followed us was now circling the cabin, all of us freaking out. But then the thing looked into the window, and I got a pretty good look at what it was. It had a humanoid body, muscular, yet lanky at the same time. and the head was not like that of a Sasquatch, but much more like a wolf. All night we heard scraping and heavy footsteps until early morning. It must have lost interest and left. I went to get some breakfast early that morning, and to my horror, I found a large set of claw marks in the wood and a large set of footprints leading toward the woods. So after that harrowing encounter, I found out that the thing we saw was not a Bigfoot, but rather an old cryptid from Michigan folklore called the Dogman. Ever since then, I've refused to go camping because whatever I saw, I knew it could still be roaming those campgrounds. Robert, sleep well. I hope you feel better, buddy. Take some Tylenol. Hot pack that motherfucker. Hi, Strangeness. What's going on? Wrecker Girl. Athira, how are you? Eramic! What's going on, buddy? How are you, buddy? Thank you, SDL. It's getting a little longer. I got it cut. I shouldn't have got it cut. I got it cleaned up a little. Dirty Dom, how are you? You guys want a lot lizard story? Thank you, Pops. Alan Howell, how are you, my friend? Is it time for the lot lizard stories? Yes, I think so, right? All right, here we go. We'll start with an easy one for the night. We'll start this off easy. No, I didn't get the donkey. Sorry, Sully. I forgot. I'll have to write it down, I promise. Barnaby, a spindly alien with skin the color of week old guacamole, crash landed his scout ship not in Roswell as he intended, but in the parking lot of Big Bubba's truck stop in All You Can Eat Ribs, just outside of Amarillo, Texas. He envisioned a triumphant first contact, maybe even a ticker tape parade. Instead, he was greeted by a rusty pickup truck, a pack of stray dogs, and an overpowering aroma of deep-fried everything. Barnaby emerged from the wreckage. Thank you, Trish. Wreckage, his three eyes blinking nervously. He was on a mission, a vital mission for his planet, Glorp. He was to assess Earth's potential as let's just say Glorp was running out of space for its increasingly large collection of pet sloth. He opted for a disguise, a hasty constructed human suit modeled after a blurry image he intercepted from Earth's internet. Unfortunately, the image was that of a mannequin dressed in a leisure suit 2 sizes too big. Barnaby looked less like a menacing alien invader and more like a particularly awkward scarecrow attending a disco. He stumbled toward the truck stop, his rubbery legs protesting with every step. Big Bubba's was a cacophony of smells, sounds, and sights that overloaded Barnaby's delicate alien senses. Truckers with beards that could house small birds slamming coffee mugs, waitresses with beehive hairdos buzzed around, dispensing gravy and sassy remarks. And in the corner, emitting a pure, unadulterated joy, was Lizzo. She was at the jukebox. Barnaby, utterly bewildered, shuffled toward the sound. He had never heard anything like it. The rhythm pulsed through his alien veins. The lyrics spoke of self-love and confidence and body positivity. Glorp was a planet obsessed with being perfectly, surgically thin. This was revolutionary. He found himself staring at the jukebox, transfixed as Lizzo belted out Good as Hell. Suddenly, a booming voice shook him from everything he knew. Well, ain't you just a sight? Lost your dog, son? Barnaby turned to see a woman who could only be described as magnificent. She was large, luminous, and radiated an aura of pure, unapologetic confidence. She wore a sequenced jumpsuit that shimmered under the fluorescent lights and a smile that could melt a glacier. It was Lizzo, or at least someone who looked remarkably like her. I'm assessing your planet, Barnaby stammered, his voice cracking. The woman chuckled, a sound like a gentle earthquake. Assessment? Honey, the only assessment you need is that you look like you haven't eaten a decent meal in years. Come on, I'm Brenda. Let's get you some ribs. Brenda, it turned out, was the waitress at Big Bubba's, a dead ringer for Lizzo. She took Barnaby under her wing, piling his plate high with ribs, mashed taters, and enough coleslaw to sink a boat. Barnaby, unused to such culinary abundance, struggled to eat. Brenda, however, was relentless. You got to put some meat on those bones, sugar. Get a little junk in that trunk. Ain't nobody going to invade the world looking like a plucked chicken. He tried to explain his mission, the desperate need for sloth real estate back on Glort, but Brenda just laughed and patted his head. Sloths. Honey, we got plenty of space for sloths right here. We got more space than sense, that's for sure. Days turned into weeks. Barnaby, under Brenda's watchful eye, slowly adapted to Earth's life. He learned to tolerate the smell of deep-fried everything. He even developed a grudging fondness for country music. But more importantly, he fell head over heels for Brenda. He loved her booming laugh, her sassy comebacks, and her unwavering belief in the power of self-love. He loved the way she could command the room with her presence, the way she made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the world, and adamantly, he found himself quite fascinated by what she considered to be a good little spanking. Every evening, while Brenda was teaching him how to two-step, she noticed a strange glint in his eyes. What's wrong, Barnaby? You look like you've seen a ghost. Barnaby sighed. I've got to go back, Brenda. My people are expecting results. Brenda's smile faltered. And what about us? Barnaby looked down at his rubbery feet. I don't know. Brenda stepped closer, her eyes softening. Barnaby, you're a good egg. A skinny, green, good egg. But a good one nonetheless. You got to decide what you want. If you want to live a life governed by sloth-obsessed aliens, or do you want to stay here, eat ribs, and learn to love yourself, and maybe learn a little thing about proper application for a good spanking, honey? Barnaby looked at Brenda, at her sparkling jumpsuit, and the confidence that radiated from her like sunlight. He thought about Glarp and the endless paperwork and the constant pressure to conform. Then he thought about Brenda's ribs, her laugh, and her tantalizing prospect to further spanking-related educations. He made the decision. He grabbed Brenda's hand and squeezed. I'm staying, he said, his voice trembling with newfound conviction, and I'm going to learn everything you can teach me. And Lizzo. Brenda threw back her head and laughed, a sound that filled the truck stop. And that's my boy, she roared. Now, come on. Let's get back to that two-step, and after that, maybe we can discuss postgraduate spanking studies. Back at Glorp, the pet sloths continued to multiply. The Glorpian Council, however, was strangely unconcerned. They'd intercepted a transmission from Earth, a garbled recording of Brenda singing karaoke. They were captivated. Apparently, the planet that celebrated body positivity and a strategic application of well-placed spankings was a planet worth studying, and maybe, just maybe, a planet worth invading. But that was another story altogether. And for now, Barnaby was right where he needed to be, learning the true meaning of self-love, one rib at a time, and a hell of a good spanking from Brenda and Lizzo. Richard Minnick, thank you so much. Thank you, Aramek. I appreciate that. I figured I'd do something a little nice. You know, that one was the only nice one of the night. Barnaby was just too nice to violate with a rubber chicken, but he still needed some spankings. You know what I mean? He still needed a little bit of spankings. Yes, it is the Mexican coca. Ain't nothing better. Etheria, thank you so much. Thank you. I was thinking of you when I wrote that, Aramic. I want to share a paranormal experience I had about 15 years ago. I've had paranormal experiences all my life, but this one in particular creeped me out. I was living at my parents' house at the time. I was 16 or 17, somewhere around there. We were living in a duplex. One night, my parents decided to go for a drive, and it was just me, my sister, her then boyfriend, and my nephew, Eric. He was older. He was older than me. Don't ask. My parents were weird. Anyway, see, the thing about my nephew, Eric, was that he is always the kind of little odd one, a little strange and somewhat klepto, but I couldn't prove it. So anyway, one night I was in my room trying to sleep and I started to doze off and I heard a knock at my door. My room had two doors, one that leads into the house and one that leads into the backyard, which is cool when I used to sneak out. Anyway, I heard the knock at the back door and I was like, that's odd. That never happens. I said, who is it? And it was my nephew, Eric. He said in a hurried voice, Alan, it's me. Let me in. I said, no, Eric, you know you're not supposed to be coming into my room. Go away. He said, like, no, man, let me in. Let me in. They're going to get me. Let me in. You have to let me in. I said, dude, just go to the front door. I'll unlock it and come in. So I wake up kind of pissed because I was trying to sleep. I go to the front door and I see my parents driving up. And I said, hey, guys, Mom, Dad, did you see Eric? He was out here trying to bug me in my room after I specifically said I didn't want him in my room. You guys need to talk to him. My dad said, Alan, you're still asleep. Go back to sleep. And said, nah, I'm wide awake now because Eric woke me up. He said, Alan, he's asleep in the living room. That's where he was when we left. I ran inside quick and went into the living room and found him fast asleep on the couch. And I said, Eric, were you just knocking at the back door? He said, no, I was asleep. That tripped me out. If that wasn't enough to creep me out, a week later, my mom and I were out front. She was watering her plants. I'm just kind of hanging with her. And we see a lady with flowers and candles and stuff by the corner of our house near the street. We see her laying stuff there. Now my mom's like, let's see what she's doing. So my mom asks her in Spanish, like, hey, what's up? Can I help you? The lady said in English, oh, hi, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm just putting something here for my boyfriend. He was lost here 10 years ago and I'm paying respect. My mom was like, if you don't mind me asking what happened. They used to live in the same duplex at the time. They got into a nasty fight, she and her boyfriend, and she kicked him out of the house. And when she was trying to take a shower, he came knocking at the back door saying, let me in. They're going to get me. Let me in. And she told him, no, get out of here. Go away. You know you're not allowed in the house anymore. He said, let me in. Go away. So apparently he left the backyard only to get shot and killed in front of the front yard on that very corner. So when I heard her tell that story, I pretty much got weak at my knees because I was like, I heard the same thing last week. Somebody was telling me to let me in, let me in. They're going to get me. The same thing I had heard her just say about her boyfriend. That one's creepy. That one I literally wanted to share. I was hoping Jimmy Petnito was here tonight, but he's not. What's up, San Fran? Steven Jackson, what's going on? Did we win tonight? Last I knew, we were not doing well. Dodgers won. Good game. Aramic! Thank you so much, buddy. What's up, Double Hawk? How are you, buddy? They're bothering my ears. There, that's better. What's up, Coker? Coker. I got a story for you, Aramic. I got one for you, buddy. Ooh, that's another one I wanted to share with Pet Nito. Oh, actually, Aramic, you have to forgive me. I've got to share this one. I got to share this one first because when I found this, I thought of everybody because this one was just too crazy. Erica Danforth, thank you so much. Dis, what's going on? How are you, buddy? All right. I wanted to know if anyone has ever seen a creature that resembles Yoda from Star Wars. I know it sounds silly, but about 20 years ago, my friend and I decided to drive out to an area, Highway 27, Hamilton Road from Columbus, Georgia, towards Hamilton. We were two dumb teenagers at the time who had heard a rumor that there were Satan worshippers out in the woods. As teenagers do, we decided to investigate it for laughs and have fun scaring ourselves. We turned down the dirt road and followed it for a while until we wound up driving into a large open grass field. It was very dark out that night and quiet. While we did not see any Satan worshippers, I decided to try and scare my friend sitting in the passenger seat by placing my car in park in the big open field. And I turned off the headlights for only about 10 to 15 seconds, which put us in complete darkness. We couldn't even see each other, let alone anything outside around the car. Then I turned the headlights back on. The car was still running the whole time. And when we looked forward, there, standing in front of the car, almost touching the front bumper, was a creature to this day we cannot explain. The creature was about 6 feet tall, and it had 2 legs, but not human legs. From the waist up, it looked like Yoda, grayish light green, strange long ears, somewhat flat but scrunched up their face, big round eyes, which looked us both in their eyes. The eyes were in the front of its face, not on the side. It was definitely not a deer or any other normal animals from the woods. I don't remember seeing arms, but it appeared to have 2 little skinny arms in the front, but I can't be certain. It only stood there for about 5 seconds, then turned around and quickly ran off into the night. Pups, thank you so much, dearie. It didn't have a distinct walk or run or jump. It was somewhere in the middle of a run, jump, or hop, glide kind of movement when it hurried away. Even that was not normal movement for any animal or a person. Naturally, my friend and I screamed. I threw the car in reverse and raced out of there as fast as I could. We never went back to search for another sighting, as one time was good enough for us. But I am interested to know if anyone had ever seen anything like it. Nope. And nope. Thank you, Pops. I appreciate that. It does sound like a gremlin. Etheria, thank you so much. And Tina Marie, how are you tonight? Rhonda Wolf, hi, how are you? Yoda lived in Charlotte Region Park. That was close to Victor's story. Yeah. In San Bernardino Valley area, right? Thank you, Etheria. You know it, Tyler 420. I'm like, because they want everything to be kind of a secret, Matt. They don't want the breeding program to be let out. That's why Victor was silenced. He was told to say a certain amount of things. He went overboard with it. And the reason why it seems like Dirty Dom, no, a Celtics fan. The reason why it sounds like that we are seeing more experiences is because we technically are, but what people aren't realizing is that the dates are either, like older, but with like the internet and all of the applications we have on our phones and all of the ways of communicating now, more people are feeling comfortable enough to share more. It just seemed like there was less experiences because people weren't sharing. But if you think about it, now people have a community to reach out, whether it be here or on Steve How to Hunt, confessionals, wherever, they feel comfortable to share. So that's why it seems like we're having more experiences. And I agree with Aramic as well. Dirty Dom, no, I said I was a Celtics fan. No, I don't like cream soda, Erica Danforth. Sorry. I literally, when I go to a restaurant or like the movies and I'm like, hey, do you have Coke products? And they're like, no, I want to leave. I've never I've never been so upset. What's going on, Mr. I can't read that, so I'm just going to say, Mr. How are you? Be around and employed if he didn't use his work email. He didn't use his work email. He had permission to share what they told him to on the channel. But he went overboard. Star Fox, that's old. Like that's like the popping in sound, that's just, I don't know. I've never heard it myself. I know when we heard what we heard, used to, I'm not really sure, but I've heard people say that sound is made and sometimes it's not. A long time ago, it was a huge thing, like when people were sharing experiences. When I started this channel 8 years ago, it was weird. Like, it was a really weird thing. It was almost like a mix of, there was channels that were very similar to mine that did like research and wanted to know the truth. Vic Cundiff was one of them. Like he'd interview people and they would share their experiences. But then there was other channels. Dark Waters was one as well. But then there was other channels that would like combine true shit with creepypasta, and that fucked a lot of things up in the community. So I'm not really sure how about the popping thing. Aramic, thank you so much. Holy shit. Thank you. Mike Turner, what's up, buddy, over there? How are you, buddy? It's written already, $86. It's ready to be put out, but I can't. I'm waiting on the publisher to tell me when they're going to put it out, to be honest with you. It's kind of in limbo right now. That's, thank you. I agree with you. If Katy Perry's an astronaut, Dirty Dom, right back at you. She went as high as a fucking hot air balloon. Like, she didn't see, like, if you picture how high they were, they didn't see the earth and it being cylindrical. They didn't see anything, literally. They just saw they weren't even that high, and they kissed the ground. Oh my god, it was like a fucking social media thing. So dumb. He didn't know, Matt. He doesn't know. He wasn't a scientist. He was a hunter. And he said that too. So he didn't know, to be honest, Shatner did it better. And I said, no, Dirty Dom. I said I was a Celtics fan. I don't know what. And then you said Celtics, da-da-da, gave me the finger. So we're going to move past that. And Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Yes, it was cringe. Thank you, High Strangeness. Dude, she like holds a dandelion up in the air, kisses the fucking ground. Like, come on now. The dude in the Red Bull fucking balloon went higher than them. And then the motherfucker parachuted. Like, he almost burnt up coming into orbit. His face is still burned from it. I've heard. No, it's not. But, like, she sucks nuts. Celtics are great. What's up, Ed? Gavin Rogers, nice. Welcome. I'm glad that you're going to be here. I know that's why you said it, Dirty Dom. Are you taking shrooms with what's his name tonight, Dirty Dom? Ever heard of them in West Texas? Yes, Lucas. They are all over. They are all over. Yeah, the dude went way higher in the Red Bull thing. He was fucking ready to go. I wish she had opened the door early. Then she like popped out. What's that song that she does? Firework or something? I don't know. Maybe she would have blown up. Fucking dirty, dirty girl. I hate her. I don't know why. I just do. Probably because she pisses me off. Like, there you go. That was for all of you because I love you. This happened 25 years ago when I lived in Fort Dodge, Iowa. My boyfriend and I went to a Slipknot concert one night. No, I'm just kidding. And if you know Slipknot, you know why that comment was made, because they're from Iowa. Anyway, that was dumb. This happened 25 years ago when I lived in Fort Dodge, Iowa. My boyfriend and I went to a graveyard one night because he told me a story about how he had seen something there. He didn't really want to take me, but I insisted. He said that he had heard stories about the place, and if you go and sit every night, you will eventually see it. He said he had finally seen the thing himself on the third or fourth consecutive night he had visited. It was like a man-like and gray. It was man-like and gray, but he could only catch a glimpse of it. It never went back afterward. I remember him saying he had car trouble when it appeared as well. Well, I could not resist. I wanted to see it for myself. On the third night, we saw it. We were sitting in the dark with the moon beaming, being the only source of light, and we both suddenly got creeped out for the first time since we had been visiting the place. We changed our minds about the whole thing and decided to leave and never come back. But lo and behold, the car, my car that never had any troubles before, and not again years after the incident, would not start. My boyfriend was driving that night and kept trying, and it did eventually start up. When the headlights came on full force, we saw it standing right in front of the car. It was about 7 feet in height and gray. In fact, it looked like a moving statue to me. It was kind of bent over, just looking into the windshield at us. And we were freaking the hell out. Finally, it kind of shifted and the car started. The thing darted off to the left so quick. I knew that if it came to the side windows, we would both be dead in a minute. It was so fast, but it stood to the side of the car watching us drive away. The cemetery was laid out where the gravel road, Old Country Cemetery, went around the whole graveyard in a circle and looped back around, so the entrance was also the exit. We were spinning tires and slinging gravel the whole way around, but when we passed the place where the thing was, it had not moved. It had been standing there watching us go around the gravel circle, and it did let us leave, but it was looking directly at me, the passenger side of the car. And I couldn't really make out any features because it was dark. I was overcome with the most severe depression I had ever felt in my life. In that moment, when I was looking back at the thing, it was like everyone and anything I ever cared about in my whole life was burned right before my eyes. The pain, the hurt was almost tangible. It took my breath away at that very moment. That night, when I was home and finally able to somehow sleep, I had a dream that the thing was calling to me from the graveyard, begging for me to come back. It was harmless and miserable, stuck in that old cemetery forever. It was alone, so alone. When I woke up, I was determined to go back and find the creature, but before I could even tell my boyfriend, I got calls from him and 2 of his best friends. All 3 have had nightmares where the thing had brutally murdered and mutilated me. The 2 girls who called me didn't know anything about the graveyard incident from the night before. It was so late when we got back home, I didn't tell anyone. My boyfriend dreamed that I had gone back to the place because I felt bad for it, so he drove out there after me. When he got there, he found the thing ripping me apart. For the long time, I had dreams about it saying, "I won't hurt you. Please come back and help me. I am suffering." For a while, I had to fight the urge to go back, even after 3 people told me about their nightmares where I had been attacked. The urge isn't strong at all anymore. I guess it faded in time and kids and adult life. But I do know about it often. I do think about it often, and I do kind of get a little itch just to drive through. I don't know, it would be dumb as hell, but there's always been a little nagging voice that whispers about the thing we saw that night. It had a masculine physique, no genitalia. Its eyes were completely black, no iris or pupil or anything, just a black inky nothingness. I have been searching for all of these years to find out what this thing is. Anyway, thanks for allowing me to share. Clint, thank you, buddy. Record girl, you've got to get some of this. It's so good. Like a walker, like on Walking Dead. Coral, Rick. Sold her soul for rock and roll, Alan Howell. Congratulations, Matt C. Congratulations. Wilburn! Where the fuck is that old boy? Coral! I fucking love Rick Grimes. Coral! Carl was badass. I like when Negan's like, when he made him lift up his patch and he goes, "Can I touch it?" Fucking great. He's like, and smelled his finger. Ew. Oh shit, Ron the pipe fitter. Here, I'm gonna put my email in right now. I type slow. I didn't even spell my name right. There it is. There you go. It's right above. It's right. Pups beat me to it. Thank you, Pups. What brand of coffee do I drink? Nantucket blend. What the hell kind? Green Mountain Coffee. Green Mountain Coffee Nantucket blend. Kekolina, how are you? Ruben, what's up, buddy? Autumn, how are you? Thank you so much. Thank you for the prayers. Appreciate that. Have you guys, so speaking of Maggie Mayhem, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. So have you, Ron the pipe fitter just talked about how his dash cam caught something in Elkhorn, right? Have you guys ever heard about the, yeah, that's old news, Shauna Rain. That actually was proven. Unfortunately, it was actually proven that they weren't aliens. They were miners that were dressed as aliens. They were arrested. A bunch of them were arrested. And it was weird because that kind of happened at the same time that there was a dogman attack on some kids at a village. I have the footage of it, but YouTube won't let me share it. The alien face peelers. Face peelers. I'll never forget that. That was like the biggest, like, people were talking about it. And then, like, they were like, it's aliens. I was like, huh? Aliens? And then you keep reading, and then the government busted, like, there were some, like, rogue fucking gold miners. Blueberry coffee. Green Mountain makes a hell of a good blueberry coffee. Aramek, thank you so much. Autumn Cassidy, I won't go near Rumble. I stick to YouTube because it's all I know. I'm 48. I'm not tech savvy. I have no idea how I even started this channel. I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I'm not tech savvy at all. Imagine people used to say, Jeff, can you help me start a channel? And to be like, no, I can't. I don't know even how I started mine. Aramek, thank you so much. Yeah, but I'm just staying with YouTube. I'm loyal. What's up, Five Rings? We kicked ass tonight, baby. I fucking was waiting for you tonight. We've been getting our asses handed to us. Five Rings, we've been getting beat by teams that suck nuts. And yet we kick major ass on great teams, but every fucking shitty team we get beat by. It makes no sense. Tigger is the brains of the operation. Thank you, Alan Howell. Appreciate that. Right, dude. Crazy. What time is it? Is it time? I think it's time for another lot lizard story. We've been going hard on the encounters. That's what she said. All right, here we go. This one's got Earl in it. Lot lizard stories are the only fictional story you will hear on the channel. Earl, Big Rig Bartlett wasn't known for his refined tastes, but he was known for being reliable. A 40-year veteran of the open road, Earl had seen it all, from rogue tumbleweeds the size of Volkswagens to roadside diners serving up mystery meat that defined earthly expectation. He hauled everything from frozen chicken to flammable chemicals, and he did it with a gruff charm and a booming laugh that could shake the fillings out of your teeth. His girlfriend Lizzo wasn't exactly refined either. She was a self-proclaimed lot lizard, a fixture at the truck stops up and down I-40. But beneath the layers of leopard print and a heart of gold, plated perhaps, but gold nonetheless, Lizzo had a laugh that was just infectious as Earl. And she could haggle with a lovesick trucker over the price of a shower and a back massage like a well-seasoned Wall Street broker. One sweltering night in Oklahoma, Earl pulled into a particularly desolate truck stop. The neon sign flickered ominously, casting a long, distorted shadow. He was dog-tired and craved a cup of coffee strong enough to dissolve metal. "Stay put, Lizzo," he grumbled, patting her knee. "I'll grab us some Joe." Lizzo perched on the edge of the bunk, puffing a cigarette. "Be careful, Earl. Place looks kind of creepy." Earl chuckled. "Creepy? Honey, once I spent a week hauling radioactive waste. This ain't creepy." He ambled into the diner, which was sparsely populated, a lone trucker nursing a coffee at the counter, and a waitress with a permanent scowl wiping down tables with a rag that looked older than Earl. But then he saw her. She sat in a dimly lit booth, her back to him, long raven hair cascaded down her back, and she wore a dress that shimmered like the moonlight on water. Something about her presence, a subtle hum in the air, made the hairs on his back stand up. As he walked closer, she turned and Earl nearly choked. She was breathtakingly beautiful, with eyes the color of molten gold and a smile that promised unimaginable pleasures. "Well, hello there, trucker," she purred, her voice like smooth velvet. "You look like you could use some company." Earl, a man who had built a life on resisting temptation, mostly the temptation to eat an entire pecan pie in one sitting, found himself utterly defenseless. He stammered, I was just getting some coffee." "Coffee can wait," she said, beckoning him closer. "I have something much more satisfying." Now, Earl wasn't stupid. He knew that beautiful women didn't usually hang out in a rundown truck stop offering satisfaction to weary truckers. But his brain was currently locked in a staring contest with her cleavage, and his better judgment was losing badly. He slid into the booth, ignoring the warning bells clanging in his head. "And what might that be?" he asked, his voice sounding more breathless than intended. "A conversation," she whispered, leaning closer, "about your soul." Suddenly, the waitress dropped a plate with a crash that echoed through the diner. Earl blinked, and the woman's radiant beauty seemed to flicker, replaced by a glint of something sharper, something predatory. "My soul?" Earl repeated. A wave of cold dread washed over him. "What's wrong with my soul?" It's bland," she said, wrinkling her nose. "All that diesel fumes and mediocre coffee needs a little seasoning." That's when Lizzo burst into the diner, her leopard print dress a vibrant splash of chaos. She spotted Earl in the booth and let out a war cry that could make a Viking proud. "Earl Bartlett, what in the name of Dolly Parton do you think you're doing?" she bellowed, marching toward the booth. "I told you to get coffee, not get seduced by some truck stop tart." The succubus, because that's clearly what she was, recoiled at the sound of Lizzo's voice, her perfect features twisting into a mask of annoyance. "Get out of here, you harlot," she hissed. Lizzo planted her hands on her hips, a formidable figure of righteous indignation. "Harlot? Honey, I invented that term.
And I'm not letting you lay your grubby little claws on my Earl's soul. He needs that soul for driving and maybe occasionally for remembering where he parked the rig. A battle of wills ensued, a bizarre clash between a succubus craving a trucker's soul and a lot lizard determined to protect her man. The succubus tried to hypnotize Lizzo with her golden eyes, but Lizzo just flipped her the bird. She tried to tempt Earl with promises of eternal youth and untold riches, but Lizzo just reminded him of the time he had eaten a whole plate of chili cheese fries and how good he felt afterward. Finally, defeated and clearly disgusted, the succubus vanished in a puff of sulfurous smoke, leaving behind a lingering smell of cheap perfume and disappointment. Lizzo grabbed Earl by the ear, dragging him out of the diner. Earl, you idiot, you almost got soul jacked. Back in the cab, Earl was still shaken. I don't know what came over you, Lizzo. I don't know what came over you, Lizzo. She was just so attractive. Lizzo snorted. Attractive? Honey, I can get you attractive. I can give you attractive with a side of onion rings and a free shower. But you got to promise me no more taking shiny strangers in the truck stop. Earl, humbled and thoroughly chastised, nodded. Promise, Lizzo, promise. As he started the engine and pulled back onto the highway, Earl couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. He'd almost lost his soul to a succubus. But then again, he thought with Lizzo by his side, he had a better guardian for his soul than any angel. And he knew deep down that even a succubus couldn't compete with the power of a good back massage and a shared plate of chili cheese fries. Aramik! Thank you, my brother. I will give you a crawler encounter in a minute, Clint. I promise you, buddy. I promise. God damn, I got a lot of fucking encounters to round it up for tonight for y'all. I'm looking for Aramik. I'm looking for I think I had one. Hang on. There we go. All right, I got to give Aramik his flying humanoid Mothman-like, and then I got a crawler for you. Aramik, this one is for you and all of your amazing research you have provided the community on frickin' Mothmen and their prophecies. What's up, Chronicle of Cryptids? It's going well. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well. For many years, I still don't know if it was just my childhood imagination. I used to tell friends that I saw something in my house. Usually, I'd just say it might have been a ghost, but honestly, I have no idea. I can't say exactly how old I was, but I was definitely still in primary school. It happened in the winter, Poland, 2009, most likely. Probably a few days after Christmas Eve because I was playing with a Lego set I got as a gift, and it was already dark outside. The lights were on in my room. I was playing on the carpet across from the door that opened into a lit hallway.
From that angle, looking out the door, I could see a wall and a banister around the space above the stairs. I was really focused on playing. My eyes were down, but for some reason, maybe because I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye and looked up and glanced toward the door, and that's when I saw it. From the left side of the doorframe, a figure slowly started to emerge. It must have been over a meter tall, but no taller than a meter and a half. It had a strange color, not so much the figure itself, but the aura surrounding it. It was a mix between purple and celadon. It was floating in the air, maybe a half a meter off the ground, hard to say. I was just a kid and sitting on the floor, so I had to look up slightly. It had bent legs and a bit of a hunch. And in that position, it slowly drifted to the right through the air. I don't remember if it was wearing anything exactly. It looked like it appeared to be male. I remember it had a fairly large head, so big it looked disproportionate to the rest of its body, with a black mop of hair and big ears. The facial features were hard to tell. I saw it from its profile, definitely very prominent cheekbones and a large nose. I froze for about 3 seconds and couldn't move. I was in shock. Then a wave of chill hit me and fear took over. I immediately looked back down at the Lego bricks and started pretending to play. In my head, I was thinking, just pretend you're playing. Maybe it won't notice you. Pretend you didn't see it. After a few seconds, I couldn't process what I had seen or even whether I had seen something or if it was my imagination. I might have believed it was all in my head to this day, if not for what happened next. Guess what? Curiosity won, and I looked up again without lifting my head too much because I was afraid it might still be there. And then I saw that from the right side of the door frame, part of the figure was still visible. After a short moment, it completely moved out of view. I was stunned, terrified. I sat there for a while, trying to gather the courage to run to my parents, who were in the living room downstairs. When I finally managed to do it, I ran out of my room, not looking to the right out of fear that it was still there, and bolted down the stairs and sat on the couch next to my parents, and I didn't say a word to them. I just took comfort in the feeling of safety. I was scared that they wouldn't take me serious. I didn't have the strength to try and explain it to them because the emotions I had just gone through had completely drained me. The thing never even looked at me. It was like it didn't know I had seen it. I didn't tell any of my friends at school either. I didn't want to be laughed at. For the next few days, I felt uneasy any time I played in my room, afraid to see it again. It took years before I told anyone, usually after a few drinks, and only in vague terms, just saying I had seen something I can't explain without going too much into detail, so I wouldn't sound like a weirdo. And has anyone ever encountered anything like this? It was flying, it was real, and it was huge. Let me know. Aramic, was that a Mothman? Janie, you're going to bed? Good night, Janie. I hope you feel better. All right, now let's get the crawler. Oh, shit. I got another one for Aramic. There, I found it. Turn down. Growing biped. There it is, right here. Here it is, right here. Shit, I messed that one up, didn't I? Yep, I did. Okay, there, it's better. Ah, fuck you. Stay. All right, so we are going to stay in Poland for this experience. Clint, this one's for you. And then Aramic, I got another one for you, buddy. God damn it. They're a little sticky tonight, kids. Little sticky. Yeah, in Texas. Yeah, I've heard of it. But technically, there could be a dogman triangle in any state. I mean, if you really think about it. I have a hard time with people labeling things like that nowadays, you know, like no one ever talked about it 15, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. They're like, what can we come up to be relevant? You know what I mean? Just my idea. Because you can triangulate anything if you really think about it. Cornstarch. I should. I did a dogman encounter earlier, Michelle. I probably will do one in a minute anyway. I just remembered an experience I had when I was around 12 years old. I am now 21, so it was quite a long time ago. I want to know if anyone else has ever had one the same. I have not been able to explain it to this day. Anyway, this happened sometime between June and July of 2013. I lived in rural Poland. I woke up at around 3 in the morning and could not fall back to sleep. I started looking around my room. I was contemplating getting up on my computer, but I was too lazy to actually get up, so I just lied there until something caught my attention in the hallway. My door was slightly open, so I could see just a little bit. Before I tell you what I saw, let me give you a quick picture of what my house looked like back then. When you exited my room, there was a long hallway. In the middle of it, to the left, was an entrance to the kitchen, and to the right, in front of it, was a door to the bathroom. At the end of the hallway back then was the front door with a little window on the top, so the moonlight swept in. It must have been a full moon or close to it because I could see the hallway was decently lit. Anyway, what caught my attention was a small head peeking at me behind the slightly opened door. It was really close to the ground at first. I didn't really think much of it. And after a short while, I thought to myself, it must have been my dog. My dog is a Maltese. He's small, and back then he used to sleep above my head on my pillows. So I reached my hand up to see if he was there, and sure enough, he was right there sleeping. That's when I got confused. We didn't have any other animals in the house, and I lived with my mom and my granddad. Both of them were asleep, and they sure were not going to peek at me in the middle of the night on what seemed like all fours. So I quickly looked back at the door and saw this thing hiding behind the door. I don't know how long I lie there in shock, but eventually I decided to get up and investigate. Run to my mom's room, actually. I quickly got up and ran to the light switch, turned the light on, and fully opened the door. And when I did, I saw this thing's legs. It just entered the kitchen. It was on all fours. It didn't run. It seemed like it didn't care about me as it was moving kind of slow, almost like taking a casual walk. Its skin was a grayish color. It looked almost dirty. It had black spots on it. It could have been dirt. I don't know. The legs were skinny and lanky. Once again, I was paralyzed. I don't even know if I was scared at that moment. I think I was just in shock. When it disappeared in the kitchen, I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in there. I didn't come out for a long time, and when I did, nothing was there. Nobody woke up either, not even my dog. He always chases people when they run. I have no idea what it was that I saw. All I know is for sure I was not dreaming. Thank you for allowing me to share. Aramic, this is an official one. I pray and hope that this meets your expectations of the Mothman to help you with your prophecies. I know how important this is to you. I'm just fucking with you. I love you, brother. I saw a Mothman in 2019 in the city of Montpellier, south of France, and I would like to share it. It happened during a summer afternoon. There was a thunderstorm. I opened my windows to enjoy the sound of the rain. When I looked up, I saw a black human-shaped figure with wings seemingly floating right in front of me. The way it moved was so unreal that I was left mesmerized. Its movements were incredibly fluid, as if it was floating to rise up into the air. At that moment, I couldn't tell if I was looking at a man, a bat, or a demon. It floated above the buildings for a good minute, and then it flew over the city and disappeared. I was living in the city center on a pretty busy street. Since that event, I have spent many nights researching and reading testimonies. The majority are being from the United States, and I was wondering if there was any other experiences worldwide, especially France, about these creatures, the Mothman. Is there a link between thunderstorms and Mothmen? I'm not really sure. Anyway, thank you. That's an interesting thing. Aramik, is there a link between the Mothman and thunderstorms? I bet you there is. Actually, I think, wasn't there a thunderstorm the night or the day that the the bridge collapsed? I believe there was a thunderstorm the day the bridge collapsed in West Virginia. Yes, sir. You ever feel, I feel like an expert. Enormous. How are you this evening? I feel like an expert when I open these. I just feel like so cool. You ever feel so cool when you do something, but that's so fucking dumb? Pops, have a good night. Thank you for hanging out with us. Like, look how cool this is. Like, I'm a fucking pimp at opening Coke bottles. I'm such a fucking dork. I get amused by the dumbest shit. I swear to God. Pops, thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate you. I did get a haircut. I don't know. Have you seen me in a while, Enormous? I don't think you have. I shaved my head. It was bald for a while. I bicked that motherfucker. I was as bald as my butt. No, I didn't. I'm only kidding. It was like this. Like this. What do you mean? Like, I do. The only difference between a werewolf and a dogman is one has a tail, one doesn't, and one has a shorter snout, and one's much smarter. There's very rarely any stories on the werewolf itself. It's usually misidentification between a Bigfoot and a werewolf, a true werewolf. How do you know that, 59th? I do take biotin. I love biotin. TW Bicknell, I do too. Did I really? I said that? Oh, yeah, I did say that. We were talking about that night on the live. Yes. And the legs are straight. Thank you, Chronicles of Cryptid. There's usually, like, honestly, like when Tim Coonbo Baker, this is the coolest story I've ever heard Tim tell me. And I feel privileged to have been able to talk to him for so long because he's a really cool guy, you know, like I honestly was scared to talk to him because of like, he's always, you know, he's kind of world renowned in the community. And when I met him, I only had like 8,000 subscribers, but he and I hit it off like immediately. We talked for like 12 hours one day, and he was telling me that, there was a time when he was taking down all these accounts, and like one day it dawned on him, holy shit, like this sounds like something I had already jotted down in my book, but I mislabeled it as a Bigfoot. And he went back, and like I think like 30% of his encounters, 30% out of 100 of his encounters were actually dogmen or something similar to like a werewolf, which was really cool. And I was like, for him to admit that was very humbling, because people look at him as an expert, even though I say there are no experts in this field. I would honestly, if I had to say there was one, I would say Tim Baker is pretty freaking close to being an expert on these creatures. He would never say that himself. He is honestly too humble of a guy, but he's just a really interesting person, and interesting how he realized that there is something else besides Bigfoot out there, and I've been mislabeling it for so long. But I do have a black-eyed kid story for you guys. I love them too. All right. My cousin and I had a very weird experience in September of 2011. We both lived in the town of Wolverine, Michigan, and our dads are brothers. My cousin and I have been hunting and camping together since we were 12 years old. We graduated from high school. Fuck. I said I had narrated this a while ago, and I put it in the pile. I didn't look. I'm sorry. But I didn't realize this was a black-eyed person story. Anyway, we graduated from high school that spring and planned to go camping later in the summer. We finally got permission to use my dad's pop-up camper and headed off. We planned to stay a week or so in a place southwest of Mackinac City in the forest near a state park. We drove back into the woods about 4 miles off of the main road and set up in a small clearing. We both thought the area looked familiar, but could not recall if we had been there before. It was weird because we both commented at the same time to each other. We really didn't have much planned to do other than be together and hike around. Both of us were going to move away from home next spring, so we didn't know when we would see each other again. I will be honest, the camping trip was a good excuse to get away from my girlfriend for a while. We didn't do much but fight. Anyway, the first night we had some drinks and talked. Then we were in our racks early. The next morning we decided to explore the area. We started about 10 a.m. and headed west toward the lake. We had been walking no more than an hour when we heard somebody yelling ahead of us. It sounded like they were in trouble, so we cautiously continued walking toward the sound. After 10 minutes or so of yelling, it stopped and we saw no one. I had a GPS with me, so I figured we'd be able to find our way back pretty easy. We did get crossed up a few times, but we got back to the campsite late noon. After the small creek nearby there was a small creek nearby, so we washed up and started cooking dinner. As we sat and ate, there was a sound of something moving through the trees north of us. There was a lot of small animals in the area, so I figured that's what it was. A few minutes later, we heard thrashing sounds like something was sweeping at the small trees and branches. Since we were eating, I thought maybe it was a black bear and it had gotten wind of our food. Whatever it was, it soon stopped, but every once in a while it would start up again. That night, we could hear that sweeping sound coming from the same area, which really seemed odd to both of us. The next morning, it was quiet, so we walked in the direction of the noise from the previous night. We didn't see a thing, but it did look like something had been kicking up the ground in a few places. We walked back to the campsite and started to eat our breakfast. I just wanted some coffee, so I went into the pop-up to search for my coffee cup. As I was in there, I heard my cousin say something. I asked what he wanted. He replied, "You better get out here." I looked through the netting, and there was a man. He was very tall, wearing a black tracksuit, standing at the edge of the clearing. I stepped out and asked the man if I could help him, and he smiled and said, "Maybe I can help you." My cousin and I both looked at each other and kind of laughed. The man started to slowly walk towards us, and I asked what he wanted. He stopped walking and was about 15 feet from us. Right away, I noticed that his eyes were totally black and that the tracksuit was caked with mud. I asked who he was, and he smiled. "I'm just taking a walk and meeting people." By this time, I was freaked out, and my cousin walked toward the pop-up. I knew he was going to grab his shotgun. The man got a serious look on his face, like he sensed we were armed. So he turned and walked toward the woods. At the edge of the clearing, he stopped and turned around and said, "I'll be seeing you boys later," and started to laugh as he moved toward the woods. We didn't need another confirmation like that, so we gathered everything and hauled our asses out of there. We did set up at another place about 70 miles south of there, and we had an enjoyable couple of days after. But when we get together, we still wonder aloud who the hell that weird black-eyed man was real. Brian Mons, how are you? In 2014, my mate and I went out to sea to fish at night. We live in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. We left the port at 7 p.m. local time and planned to return at 9 a.m. the next morning to sell our catch. It was my watch at the time, around 5 a.m., and I was sitting in the wheelhouse drinking some tea. My mate was in his bunk below getting some rest. We'd been trolling for about 2 hours, and the horizon was just starting to brighten up a bit, enough that I could see the ocean's surface. As I sat watching the nets, I noticed that the seagulls had been following the boat. They are now very quiet, which was unusual. It was obvious that something had spooked them. I walked out of the wheelhouse and looked alongside of the boat and noticed a strange silhouette floating above the water surface that was moving at the same speed as the boat. When I took another look, it resembled a small human lying flat and floating. I was immediately stunned. I rushed to the wheelhouse to slam the door. I was paralyzed in fear and muttered uncontrollably. I cautiously looked out the window and noticed the being floating alongside the boat toward the bow. The navigation lights were on, and I could see the thing now turned upside down and was floating toward me, no more than 5 feet from the right side of the wheelhouse window. I just froze as this creature or being stared at me. It had an ovular head, more round than the most depictions of grays in the media. It had large black ovular eyes with no pupils and a small mouth that looked like a frown. The skin was very pale, almost a sickly grayish white color. It was dressed in what seemed to be some sort of black hooded-like robe that covered everything except its face. The being opened its mouth for a few seconds and then closed it again. Then it floated into the darkness and disappeared. My best estimation, the entire encounter lasted less than 1 minute. The encounter has affected my life immensely. I have been having trouble sleeping and dreaming about the incident constantly as well. I go out to see less and less now, and I will probably stop very soon. Sonia, how are you? I apologize for not saying hi to you earlier. I just caught you. Can you imagine being on a boat and you see, when I first started reading it, I thought it was floating in the water, and it seemed to be floating in the water, but then it wasn't. It was now up in the air. What's up, Kathy Hayes? How are you? Monkey Poo Coffee Guy. I love Monkey Poo Coffee Guy. Dude, Monkey Poo Coffee is dank. Well, I'm glad that you're here with us, Kathy. No, it's good, Aramik. It's very good. It tastes better than that burp did. That's for sure. I don't like water. I just don't like water in general. Yeah, water creatures fucking scare me. Like, I like water. I like the shower. The shower's cool. You know, a hot tub is nice. A bath is okay. A pool, maybe. But a river, a pond, a lake, an ocean, fuck that. I am not even sticking my toe in that. I have a heart attack when I'm on my kayak. I'm like this. You want to know why? I'll tell you a creepy story. I learned how to kayak in a saltwater harbor in Bar Harbor, Maine. Actually, the opposite side of the island in Bernard. So I'm learning how to kayak. My aunt, my dad's sister is teaching me how. I was probably 10 years old. Now, prior to this experience, I had gone to the College of the Atlantic, and we got like a tour. Because when I was younger, I was very interested in like biology and stuff. And like my aunt was a teacher, and she wanted my cousin and I, who were both the same age, to both go to college and be all we can be. So she brought me to the College of the Atlantic, and we went down to this aquarium, and I saw a wolffish for the first time that day. And I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they are absolutely fucking terrifying. They're very big and scary, and they have nasty teeth, and they can hurt you. And they said they had caught this one wolffish off the coast here. And so my aunt's like, let's go get some doughboys. Doughboys is this, there's like a kind of like a little lobster den that the locals go to, and they make fried bread dough, and they're called doughboys. But the deal was that I had to kayak from one side of the harbor to the other side of the harbor, which was a pretty good clip. And that whole time, my first time, I'm thinking about that goddamn wolffish, and like 30 of them being under my kayak, and me flipping and coming face to face with one. So that's why water scares me. I'm sorry for that, Kathy. That's terrible. That is very sad. I'm sorry for your daughter to have to go through that. And you as well, obviously. I've been to Mount Katahdin when I was like 16. Well, thank you, Aramic, for the for sharing with that with me. It's also a licorice wrapped machine. Oh shit. Yeah, I never knew that. Aramic, thank you so much. No, I've never been to Mount Shasta. I've got like 60 videos on Mount Shasta. I've had people contact me lately. You've not seen them lately? Check them out. They're pretty good. It's pretty amazing, this shit that's coming out of there. There's actually a guy that contacted me. His name was Kirk, and he had an experience in Mount Shasta, and he ended up ending his life because of it some 30 years later. So, Aramic, thank you once again, brother. You are the fucking king. No, I've never been there. I do want to go. I want to go to New Mexico first, and then I want to go to Mount Shasta. And I heard Puma Pete was gonna take me up there next time I get out that way. Kathy, I don't know if you heard me say this, but your daughter and you and your family are in my prayers, and I'm sorry for that. And 59, thank you for that. That was awesome. I know you would. I know. That's why I wanted to I figured I'd volunteer your services. This I wanted to save for Jimmy Petnito because he wrote a book called Phantom Messages. But I wanted to share this anyway. So this is pretty freaking creepy. My wife had something happen earlier to her last week. Last year, her mom had passed away. She had a long illness and had fallen. A combination of the two proved too much, so she passed away a few days after her fall. My wife went back up a couple weeks after for the funeral to help her dad with her mom's affairs. And on a Sunday night, while my wife was staying there, he passed away as well in his sleep. The family had not yet gotten over my mother-in-law's passing when stricken with grief again. This all happened last fall, right before Thanksgiving. This past week, my wife was at work in a meeting and got not one, but 2 phone calls from her dad's cell phone number. She showed me the call log on her iPhone, 2 calls from dad. When he passed away, the phone company was notified and they canceled the number. When my wife got out of the meeting, she called her dad's old number. It was now a company number on a cell phone a woman had recently been given to use for her work phone. She was stunned when she heard the story. Hi, you don't know me, but this used to be my deceased dad's phone number, and I got 2 calls from this number today. And it, of course, wasn't the lady calling my wife. She doesn't know her number. At about the same time as these 2 calls, a relative calls almost immediately after, just to say hello. That was weird of her to call right after the 2 phantom calls. My wife's father was always having fun. He had an engineering degree from Villanova and was an Air Force officer. One relative said they could see it now up in heaven, my wife's dad telling her mother he had figured out a way of calling the daughter. By the way, we often get calls from him because he would sit on his phone and hit the button and not realize he was calling us. Maybe he had sat on his phone again. Hang on a second. That's better. That's better. Ooh, a 58 Chris Craft. Ooh, that's a beautiful boat. That's like my dream boat is like a little baby Chris Craft with a Volvo Penta engine in it. Yes, Maggie, they are. They are out there. There's a guy walking down the road. I don't want to scare him. He looks old. Cross that. I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but they don't look old. They just look weird. What should I do? Oh, 20 bucks. Is that 20 bucks? Oh, boy. Now, it's name that tune. Yes, it was a shim, Susan from Najazi. No, it was not Boys in the Hood. It was a classic 1980s song that barely got any radio play from one of the greatest cult movies from the 80s, starring the two Coreys, Kiefer Sullivan, and a few other little 80 Rugrats. And it was I Still Believe from the greatest movie on earth, Lost Boys. What's up, Sam? How are you, buddy? Dude, Lost Boys is the greatest movie, and they try to remake it. You can't remake something that fucking good. Like, one, you have the two Coreys in it that were young, so they were both playing off of each other. Kiefer Sullivan was a badass. The dude with the saxophone was jacked in on steroids and had cool fucking hair. And I think he used to bang Tina Turner in Thunderdome. Like the greatest movie on earth. You don't get any fucking better. You don't get any better. No way. Lost Boys is way better than Silver Bullet. Way better. Silver Bullet, Lost Boys. Silver Bullet, Lost Boys. I said Kiefer's name. Dog Soldiers, Lost Boys. No, Dog Soldiers is not as good as Lost Boys. Better than Silver Bullet. Like, Lost Boys is just such an amazing, like, I don't know. You just can't beat it. Yes. Yes, I could. All the damn vampires. Charles Widmore, the classic line from Grandpa. From Pop Up. Swamp Thing was good. Swamp Thing was good. 80s movies were awesome, though. Like, we live in a time of fucked upness. I wish I could go back in time and move. Like, if I could go back in time, I've heard people say I'd go and live in the 50s. Fuck that. The 80s, dude. Big hair, parachute pants, spandex, breakdancing, and the Lost Boys. And Stephen King. Thank you, 59. And VCRs. Oh, Attack of the Killer Clowns is a classic. And Cock Rock. You can't forget Cock Rock. It just doesn't get better than Cock Rock. Fucking Don Dokken, Dream Warriors. We're the Dream Warriors. Ain't gonna dream no more. I didn't ground you. I didn't put you on a timeout, Dirty Dom. Someone else might have, but I didn't. Man in the Mirror. What was that other movie? Fucking Monster Squad. Monster Squad. Scary German guy. Scary German guy. They probably just didn't get your humor, buddy. I got it. I get you were only fucking around. Some people don't, though. What about Pet Rock? Fraggle Rock? Or a Pet Rock? That was more of the 50s, I think. Wasn't it, Enormous? Like 50s, 60s thing? Spaceballs. I'm surrounded by assholes. Oh, Cabbage Patch Kids were scary as fuck. Dude, Star Wars all the way. Star Wars is way better than Dune. Ew, Dune. Ugh. Fucking hated Dune. Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers? That's the question right there. Teddy Ruxpin. Fuck yeah. Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers? Buck Rogers was pretty fucking awesome. No, that was Mork. Nanu. That was Mork from Mork and Mindy. Buck Rogers had the cool little fucking robot that had like a... Buck Rogers' robot even had a Dutch boy haircut. You ever think about that? Why did the robot have a Dutch boy haircut? Buckaroo Banzai, one of the greatest movies ever. Molly Ringwald when she was pretty. What the fuck happened to her? I don't know. John Cusack, the ugliest guy in Hollywood, kissing all the hot girls back then. Like, all the dorks were cool. I would have fucking made it. Damn it. Now I get stuck with this. 2024, 5. What the fuck? Porky's Revenge. I'll never forget when I saw Porky's for the first time. I was like fucking 8. And the guy put his little Peter in the hole and fucking put the soap in it. Oh. Dude, I would go back to the 80s. I don't care. I would wear spandex pants and Dayglow fucking underwears and a headband and say, fuck it. No, I know, DL. I was just saying she got real ugly when she was as she got older. Molly Ringwald was like, no. Who was my celebrity crush in the 80s? Huh. Deborah Harry was my all-time favorite crush. Deborah Harry, Blondie. I don't know. She was just fucking, there was something about her. Bing! Erica Danforth, thank you so much. Thank you. All right. This occurred 35 years ago with my children when we lived in a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana. My children would cross the road and go up to this guy's driveway and play all of the time. One evening, they went running into the house. They said, "Mom, we heard a werewolf." I thought, well, they heard someone's weird dog, you know? I went back outside and I could hear it too. And it was not like a regular dog. It was very odd. Well, I don't know what to think about it. And I was a typical housewife and mom, cooking and taking care of stuff, the kids. So I went back inside. And it was just when the sun was going down when this happened. And there was a wooded area behind the neighborhood. But this guy, like I said, had a big long concrete that my kids would play on. Well, that evening, I want you to know God will strike me dead. It is the truth. We had a big picture window in the house, and that guy was a doctor that lived up on this hill, and he would come home late. I heard a strange sound, and I went to the picture window and I looked into my yard, and I could see the car lights and him coming up the road. And right there, I always thought it was a joke. Dogmen, werewolves are a joke, right? And I saw this thing with a huge back when it turned its head around. It had a snout at least a foot long. Its body was huge. I had never seen anything like this. There were some weird lights that we had seen just before this. It scared me so bad that I ran into the back room and locked the door. It sort of sounded like a weird dog screaming, you know, sort of like that. I'm really not sure exactly how to describe it. I had never seen anything like this in my life. It had to have been almost 7 feet in height, but its back was so large when it turned its head. Now, I want you to know that I thought all the stuff was a joke and I never believed in anything like this. I am an older lady and I've watched the horror movies from years ago. I thought all that stuff was made up, but then I saw what I saw and it freaked me out so much more. Randall Kennedy, thank you so much, buddy. And Randall Kennedy, that reminds me, that little picture reminds me of another classic 80s Voltron. GoBots. GoBots. I think GoBots were better than Transformers. Heard someone use saying lot lizard and it wasn't here. Wondering what lot lizards being used. No, it's just pretty much a trucker's saying. But I've been writing lot lizard stories for about almost a year and a half now, Matt. That's why it's basically a joke on a lot lizard being the deadliest cryptid on Earth. Do I like comics? If so, which monsters, sir? I don't understand what you mean. I like comic books. I collect comic books. I have a very large collection of comics. I'm quite the big dork. But monsters, I don't understand. That's what I should do. I should get an actual lot lizard and bring her home someday for the live stream. And we could interview a lot lizard. How fucking cool would that be? Can you imagine that? If I just bring a lot lizard and be like, so tell me about your lot lizard life. Do you know much about the glory hole? That'd be so great. I would have to feed it. Oh, I'd pay, of course. I'd be like, give me a tip on the glory hole. Oh, boy. How big are your crabs? What the fuck? Last week, I had a horrific experience. It was the middle of the night, and I woke up to footsteps in my apartment. I immediately got up and walked around. I didn't see anyone. Realized that my front door was stupidly unlocked, so of course I went and locked it. I do another check around the apartment and go back to sleep. Several hours later, I wake up to the same noises, but this time I stay still and listen. The noise stops, but my bedroom door opens ever so slightly, and I see a black outline of a person. At this point, I am petrified. I do not move or make a noise. I just wait. Finally, the figure just says 0 in a human voice, sounding like another man. I jumped out of bed and turned all the lights on to look around again. Nothing. Double check the locks, and this time the lock in my bedroom door, and lock my bedroom door. I sit on my bed for a while waiting for something to happen before dozing off. In the morning, I'm still pretty freaked out, but I go to take a shower. And when I turn on the water is hitting the ceiling. The shower head had been turned completely upside down, and I realized the only place I didn't check was behind the shower curtain. And I really don't think that I would have done that anyway. Like, why would I turn the shower head 180 degrees? It wouldn't make sense. Anyway, I go about my day, not thinking much of it. Fast forward to yesterday, I get in my car in the morning and go to class, and my rearview mirror has been turned all the way upside down as well. After that, I am so confused and spooked. I wonder if I am sleepwalking and turning things upside down. I have never sleepwalked in 22 years. Anyway, very strange. Buddy, hey, what are you doing? Come here. Tigger's here. Come here. Come here. Hey. You say hi to everybody? Oh. Say hi to everybody. Oh, buddy. Oh, good boy. Yeah. Yeah. A good boy. He's a good boy, huh? Oh. A good boy. I love you. I love you. He's a good boy, huh? Yeah. He came in to say hi to everybody. Yeah. Aw. Look at him. He's so gross. Ew. He's a buddy, though. Oh, yeah. Oh, can you guys hear him breathing? I love you. Let's see if I can get a Scarilla to move. You want to read a story with me, buddy? Huh? Want to read a story with Daddy? Okay. I grew up in southern Georgia in the woods and swamps, hunting and hanging daily. Fast forward 20 years, I am on my lease hunting property near Whitmore, South Carolina. I found it strange that the old guys in the club would never ever hunt alone in these woods. I normally carry a 30-06 while in the woods. One evening, it was getting late, 20 minutes or so, maybe before dark. I'm watching some small ponds, sitting over a row of tall pines. I am in my climber, maybe 10 feet or so up in the tree. I love the woods, but I hate heights. The woods are loud,
but then very quiet. Okay, I thought I was hoping for a big buck. The next thing I hear is something or someone walking toward me in the small pines, but then it just stops. It's getting really dark. I start hearing deep groans where the walking had stopped. I'm thinking that maybe it's a bear or a cat, which would be very uncommon for this area. A big cat, maybe, but bears this far south is not normal. It's starting to get quiet again. I could see the small road well in the moonlight. The next thing I hear is groans are immediately under me, almost beside me. Now the groans are becoming growls. Also, there is an odor. It is a bit overwhelming, just like a dead animal in the woods. I thought that a stinky animal was climbing up the tree and felt like I was going to be grabbed. I started moving a bit, trying to get my gun pointed down and lifting my feet. I'm shaking because I'm freaking scared. I could hear heavy breaths. I start yelling down. If you're a club member trespassing, I don't care. Just identify yourself or I'm going to freaking start shooting. I thought someone was going to try and get me out of my tree stand. I never heard another sound and the foul odor was gone. I put my gun on my back and I start climbing down the tree slowly. No more than 2 or 3 steps down the tree, I smelled the foul odor again and hear a low growl right in front of my face, but it was so dark I saw nothing. It scared me so bad I stood up and jumped into the dark in the other direction. When I hit the ground, I rolled, jumping to my feet and ran down the road. I ran as hard as I could down that gravel road where I could see the moonlight pretty well. At this time, I remembered that my buddy was down at the bottom of the road in some small pines where I put him in a big box stand. I didn't see his light, so I had to run down the road to get to the bottom of the river, by the rivers. He was down by the rivers. When I ran up to him, he said, "Man, there's some weird shit going on down here. We need to go." We slowly walked together back toward the gravel road. I heard something or someone walking on both sides of us the whole way. I think my buddy was hearing it too. We didn't speak during the entire time. Maybe 500 to 600 yards for some reason. I didn't feel my gun was going to help. I had hollered earlier, threatening to shoot whoever or whatever it was. They were not scared. When we got to the gravel road, the atmosphere almost changed. It was almost 11 o'clock at night by then. My buddy did not talk very much. We went back to camp and had some food and went to bed. I could hear him rolling around at night, and I did not sleep a wink. Please explain the Nephilim. Well, Nephilim are a product of the fallen angel, and they are fallen angel bred with men, human daughter, men's daughters, created these creatures called the Nephilim. Now, if you look up the word, what it means, there's a couple different meanings, but per like Stephen Quayle and Tom Horn, they are giant-like creatures that can possess or have the ability to harness supernatural powers like telekinesis, portal traveling, and such. Then there's giants. They are not clowns. That is the stupidest fucking book I have ever read. They are not clowns. If you want to read a great book and you want some serious research, Shauna Rain about Nephilim, go and look up Stephen Quayle. He is world renowned for it. Probably the smartest guy on that. Tom Horn used to be. What's up, Scott? Hello, Deborah. How are you? Cottage Grove. Do you think Nephilim? Australopithecus robustus. No, that's a good question. There he is. There he is. What's up, Mr. Haunted? I fucking saved 2 stories for you, buddy. But you showed up. Yeah, I was not being rude to you, Shauna. Just please look into Stephen Quayle and Tom Horn wrote a book called The Cloud Eaters. The title is slipping my mind right now. The book is downstairs on my desk downstairs. Look up Stephen Quayle, Tom Horn, The Cloud Eaters. One of the greatest books you could ever read. Do I think? I do not, Mr. Anderson. I think more or less they took over. I think they had more of a human look to them because of the female human gene and the angelic gene. That's just my belief. I may be wrong. It could look very similar to a very large Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal-like creature. Mr. Haunted, I shared 2 stories that I saved for you, buddy. I'll call you tomorrow and share them with you because I want you to hear them. They're freaking amazing. How are you tonight? How is life going? I do have something that, okay, here. I was not going to share this tonight, but Mr. Haunted, thank you, my friend. This is amazing. This story is amazing. I've shared this before. My daughter and I have seen some strange creatures here. This is very, very strange, and I want you guys to I've shared it once before, probably 2 years ago, and I didn't realize the power that this had, the amount of information this had. So, in 1973. I met 2 very tall people, about 8 to 12 feet in height, a man and a woman on the side of Mount St. Helens. I went there as a prep trip to go canoeing on the Not There Now Spirit Lake. Since it was March, I found the lake under snowdrifts, so I went up to the top of the mountain to climb it. As I got out of my VW Super Beetle, I was overcome with fear. Terror gripped me. Try as I might, I could not force myself to cross the parking lot to the beginning of the trail where a family were beginning their ascent. I could not move because the fear within me petrified my body. I then saw in my mind's eye, through my third eye, the mountain blowing up right underneath me. I saw the mountain and the rocks and the trees below me and all around me being superheated and exploding into shreds. I shouted to the family to get out of there because the mountain was about to blow. They looked at me like I was some nut, probably on drugs. I did have long hair in those days. The day was beautiful, clear, and I quickly realized that the sensation I was receiving was only a premonition for an event to come. I fell back into my car and got out of there. On the way down, I stopped at the lodge where I bought some beer from the owner, Harry Truman, who made a snide comment to me when I stopped to debate getting a bag of chips after buying some beer. I almost with knowing said to him that someday he would die up there with his mountain. I didn't, and I left. Further down the mountaintop, as I turned a sharp corner, I passed 2 people who were dressed in white robes. At first glance, I thought they were Hare Krishna out for a hike, and being 20 miles from Toledo, Washington, I pulled over got out to offer them a ride to town. Immediately, 2 things happened. First, as I walked up to them, I realized that I had to look up at them like I was looking at the top of a basketball net. That realization freaked me out, but I did love an adventure. As I walked up to them, I offered to give them a lift to town. The woman then turned to the man and said quietly, "I thought we were supposed to meet someone here." The man, who also had long hair, only slightly raised his hand in my direction to indicate that I was the contactee they were waiting for. At this point was not lost on me. Next, a car pulled up and asked me if I was all right. Again, my senses told me all was not normal at all. I knew the man and a carload of 4 people, perhaps a man and his wife in front with his daughter and son in the back, could not see the tall people towering over me. I said that I was simply overtaken by the beauty of the scenery and just had to get out and take a look. Slowly, very slowly, they drove away. I covered for what then seemed like me talking to imaginary people. But they are real, very real. The woman again turned to the man and said, "He can see us." To which he replied, "He is in an altered state of consciousness." Then the man turned to me and said, "You deceived them." Thinking that I had done them a favor by covering for them, I did not have a ready reply. I then asked them if they wanted a ride to town. I was torn at this point between what I knew about my reality in this dimension and what knew I who were standing before me, beings who were not from this dimension. Yet I could not wholly accept the fact. The man turned to the woman and said, "God damn it, Tigger's hair is in my nose." The woman turned to the man and said in a sweeping gesture toward the car, "Shall we?" They walked to the car. I wanted to tell them about what had just happened at the top of Mount St. Helens. As they approached the Super Beetle, I knew that they were too tall to fit. Not normally tall, but way too tall to fit in my car. I said, "Maybe it's not such a good idea," to which the man said, "We will fit fine." Before my eyes, the two beings shrank. The man got into the back seat along with the lady, which in our culture, the man would usually get into the front, right? After they got in, the man turned to the woman and said, "Are you okay?" She said, "I am fine." I needed a beer. I opened a Budweiser. This was the rural backwoods of Washington State in 1973. Don't judge. I offered them a beer as well. I took in my now normal-sized guest in the back seat of my car of my souped-up Super Beetle. Their robes were somewhat soiled and had dirt marks and signs of wear, like they had been hiking through the woods. I did not expect this from what I had come to accept as aliens or possibly some kind of angel. They looked real. The guy had very long fingers, and that's when I saw that, to my surprise, he had 6 fingers on his hand. Since I was driving at the time, the man said in a polite but commanding voice, "Turn around and watch the road," to which I replied, as any young 21-year-old would, "I am good, man. I can drive and talk at the same time." "What are you drinking?" he said. "It's a Bud," I said. "What is that?" he said. "Beer, alcohol." That's when he said, "Alcohol? That's poison." My guest hesitated for a few seconds before he spoke again. "Alcohol is going to cause you a lot of problems in your lifetime." Guess what? He was right about that. I turned around again to scope out these 2 hitchhikers. The young woman smiled. They both looked to be in their early 30s. She had long brown hair. His hair was as long as hers, which was at least shoulder length. I said, Toledo, 20 miles away. That would have been a long walk, I said. "What were you guys doing up in the mountains?" My mind was fighting with the thought now that I had 2 aliens who shape-shifted their size in the back of my car and who just chewed me out for drinking. I was beginning to question my rationality. And what if they wanted to eat me or something? I told them about my experience on the mountain and the feeling and vision I had just had. That's when he began to give me specific details about the date, the time of the eruption on Mount St. Helens. He told me how many people are going to die up there. About 60 to 70 people will die on that mountain when it erupts, he said. 68 people did die on May 18th, 1980. 7 years later, I would find myself working in Lewis County as a transporter for senior services. I had something to do with the red zone being established, but that's another story. I was told so many predictions about the mountain that came true before the eruption that one grandmother, just after it erupted, said, "You did it. You made the mountain blow up." The alien or whatever said something that triggered a repressed memory I had. He said it would happen because of a flood that we had prevented that year. Then I began to feel really strange about this encounter. I was sure that he could not have known about this topographical map I had drawn in my cabin last year, and how I had highlighted in blue everything in the state of Washington under 3,000 feet. Who are you? I asked. The woman leaned over to him and quietly, with her easy smile, asked him, "Should we tell him who we are?" "No," he said. Then he said to me, "We are watchers." Right about then, I knew I had stepped into the forest I did not know a way through. I mean, what's your name? That's when he said, "My name is Jerusalem. Jerusalem. Geruisyoumain. I said I would not be able to remember that name, and I didn't for 33 years. Then, in a dream, I heard his name as he had spoken it. And my name is you. It's easy to remember. Just think about when you say, "Are you?" and you will remember it. I did remember it. Also, I read something unique about this name. Is you is significance about the name, but again, I cannot place the importance, Of all the wonderful questions I could have asked them, I failed to do so. I still beat myself up for letting a great opportunity slip through my fingers. We were about 10 minutes outside of Toledo, Washington by then, and he said, "Pull over here. And when we get out, do not look back." So I pulled over and let them out. And of course, as I pulled away, I looked back to see them grow back to their 10-ish or 12-ish tall feet in height and then vanish. Later the next year, in total accident, I was pinned inside my Super Beetle on a bridge over a river with no way out and not knowing how to swim. I was lifted out of the window and flown over the river. I was sat down in front of the car, and the driver took me to the hospital. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm just a man," I replied. "It's all any of us can be, I guess." 6 fingers. 6 fingers. What's so funny about that, Tony Glover? I just had my cat on my lap. What's up, Semper Fi? How are you, buddy? Mr. Haunted Jimmy! Jimmy! DC, how are you tonight? Saint 13. That's all Tigger is a big ball of butt hair. There is, Chronicle. There is. I had my on my mom's side of the family, we had cousins that lived out there. And strangely enough, they were here on vacation when the mountain erupted. I was like 4 when it happened. I'll never forget it. I mean, no, that's a myth. Paul takes a hike. Yes, they do, STL. That's why I said 6 fingers. I'm doing well, Brittany. How are you tonight? Oh, dude, that's fucking funny. You're now I get it. That's funny. I was almost thinking that, but I was like, should I remind him that I had Tigger on my lap? Because he had long hair too. Yeah, what kind of watcher doesn't know? Dude, this is the story about Isu and Jerusalem. Two young watchers. Fucking Charles Widmore. That was classic, buddy. That his name was Kirk. It's a tragic fucking story. A tragic story. I feel so bad. That's cool. A project on Dogman? Interesting. What kind of project? Oh, I'm sure. It literally took me a second. Dude, that was classic, Widmore. That was fucking great. This is the story about that's gonna be in my head for the night now. The night. Shackle Neck. Did you hear me, Shackle Neck, when I said thank you for the book earlier tonight? Oh God. I fucking had those things helicoptering. Not tonight, I don't. Tyler. No shit, John Sumner. That's crazy. Maggie Mayhem, have a good night. Thank you for tonight. I appreciate that. I have. I've been grazing over that book. That book is amazing. Shackleneck picked the greatest fucking book. Like, it literally, the drawings are so cool in it. It is. That's awesome, Brittany. That is awesome. Remember, though, there are no experts in this field. All right. I do like Greek mythology, Paul. I love mythology. Remember that there are no experts in this field and that everyone's theory is just as good as everyone else's. I don't know about types, though. That's a big thing I disagree with, because I don't have a link to the book. I just shared the book on a regular. It's a great book. It's downstairs. I forget the name of it. I'll bring it upstairs next live stream, Johnny Ohm. I don't know if I agree with types because it's almost as if these things were humans. Like, we don't have different types of humans, right? If it has a tail and hocked legs and looks differently, it might be something completely different. Like when I did the DNA test on the hair from Meeker, Colorado, that the guy had sent me, the rancher had sent me, it came back hyena and an unidentified primate, but a hyena is not a dog. So like it's a very hard field to, it's a very hard thing to even write about. So I wish you luck on it. And I'd like to read it after if you could send it to me. I'd love to read it if you don't mind. Well, with the Greek mythology thing, I think that's if you ever another thing with your paper that you're writing, check out Danny Van Drimini and how he describes what
Neanderthal look like, because it resembles a dog man without a tail. But if you think about like what he wrote, every culture, like Greek mythology, Chinese, ancient Chinese writings, and everything has had these creatures in it since time memorial. It's nothing new. It's definitely not new. I think it's just a forgotten thing, or I think the word mythology, when we hear mythology, because it's taught to us in English classes by some fucked up teachers that make it seem like it's fiction, and yet it's real. Like I believe 100% that the what is it called, the centaur or whatever, I always get it wrong, but is a chimera. It's a chimera. So I don't know. Dude, it is a great book. Thank you, Shackleneck. I fucking appreciate you. I really do. All right. Here is a lot lizard story. Tony Glover. The book is on hold and not by me. The publisher has it. I was told to take out 2 chapters of it and change the intro, and I did, and now it's still on hold. Victor was killed either because of the book or because of what he shared on the channel, but I'm still trying to push it. All right. Last lot lizard story of the night. The flickering neon sign of Nowhereville truck stop, eat, sleep, and pray you leave, buzzed like an angry mosquito. Lizzo, bless her heart, could have used some mosquito repellent. Texas heat clung to her like a lovesick tick, and her sequenced dress stretched a little too tight and thin around her generous curves. Felt like wearing a wool blanket in a sauna. Lizzo, affectionately known as the Queen of the Interstate by truckers who frequented Nowhereville, wasn't your typical damsel in distress. She was built like a brick outhouse, possessed a vocabulary that could curdle milk, and had a laugh that could shatter glass. Tonight, however, even Lizzo had a feeling of uneasiness. The usual parade of 18-wheelers was not rolling in. The parking lot was eerily empty, save for one lone beat-up semi in the far corner. Even Crazy Earl, the gas station attendant known for his conspiracy theories and fondness for wearing tinfoil hats, seemed spooked. He mumbled something about a strange howl and disappearing truckers before retreating into the greasy cocoon of the mini-mart. Lizzo sighed, swatted a persistent fly away from her bright pink lipstick. Business had been slow and rent was due. Resigning herself to another unproductive hour, she lit up a ciggy and leaned against the chip formica counter of the truck stop, watching the swirling dust devils dance across the desolate highway. Suddenly, a bone-chilling howl ripped through the silence. This was not a coyote. This was deeper, primal, laced with a disturbing intelligence. Lizzo felt a shiver crawl down her spine, a feeling she hadn't experienced since the time she accidentally ate a chili dog with mayonnaise. Then the door to the diner creaked open. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the pale moonlight, was, well, there's no other way to put it. It was a Bigfoot. A hairy, hulking, undeniably perverted Bigfoot. This wasn't a cuddly, misunderstood Bigfoot from those cheesy documentaries. This one was drool streaked, reeking of stale beer and desperation, and was sporting a pair of what looked suspiciously like trucker underwear stretched across a considerable girth. Well, ain't you a sight, Lizzo drawled, flickering the ash of her cigarette. Lost, honey? The furry convention's down in Dallas. The Bigfoot grunted, took a clumsy step inside, and its eyes locked onto Lizzo. A low guttural rumble emanated from its chest. This was not a regular Bigfoot. This was a Bigfoot with intentions. Listen, Sasquatch, Lizzo said, her voice hardening.
I'm all in for a good time, but I ain't cheap. And you look like you haven't showered since Eisenhower administration. The Bigfoot, seemingly unfazed by her verbal jabs, lumbered closer, his eyes gleaming with something that was definitely not curiosity. Lizzo knew she was in trouble. She glanced around for a weapon, the salt shaker, too small, the greasy spoon on the counter, too blunt. Her eyes landed on a metal sugar dispenser, heavy, solid, and within reach. Okay, fuzzball, she said, grabbing the dispenser. You asked for it. What followed was less a fight and more of a chaotic ballet of flailing limbs, shattered sugar crystals, and surprisingly effective knee strikes. Lizzo, despite her size, was surprisingly agile. She dodged the Bigfoot's clumsy swipes, landing blows with the sugar dispenser whenever she could. The Bigfoot, clearly not used to being challenged, roared in frustration. It grabbed at Lizzo, trying to pin her down. She wriggled free, kicking him in the, well, let's just say it was a delicate area. Take that, you hairy freak, she yelled, landing another blow with the sugar dispenser. The Bigfoot howled again, this time in pain. It stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of paper towel rolls. Lizzo, seizing the opportunity, grabbed a bottle of hot sauce from the counter. You want a little spice in your life, buddy? She said, unscrewing the cap. Before the Bigfoot could react, Lizzo sprayed a generous amount of fiery hot sauce directly into its eyes. The creature roared, clutching its face and stumbling blindly out of the diner. Lizzo, panting and covered in sugar and hot sauce, watched as the Bigfoot disappeared into the darkness. She straightened her dress and picked up her cigarette and took a big long drag. Well, she muttered, adjusting her sequenced bousier. That was different. Just then, Crazy Earl stumbled out of the mini-mart, his eyes wide with disbelief. Lizzo, did you just fight a Bigfoot? Lizzo chuckled, a low, throaty sound that echoed through the empty truck stop. Honey, that wasn't just any Bigfoot. That was a perverted Bigfoot with questionable hygiene and even more questionable taste in underwear. Crazy Earl stared at her, speechless. Lizzo just shrugged. Now, she said, grabbing the mop and bucket, help me clean up this mess, and then maybe you can make me a burger. I've earned it. As they cleaned up the sticky, sugar-coated wreckage, the neon sign to Nowhereville truck stop continued to flicker, a silent testament to the night Lizzo, the queen of the interstate, single-handedly saved the truckers of Texas from a horny, hairy menace. And somewhere in the darkness, a very unhappy Bigfoot is nursing a very spicy pair of eyes, vowing to stick to online dating for now. That's Gnostic lore, John. Someone's been watching Morgue TV. Haven't you, John Sumner? Because that's Gnostic. That's Gnostic religious right there. Well, thank you, Kathy Hayes. And once again, my prayers go out to you and your daughter. The Gnostics did write a lot of amazing stuff biblically. I don't disagree with them very, I don't talk about it often either. But I've read a few books that the Gnostic religion, I don't even know how to say it. They're like Gnostic monks. They're Catholic, though. Do Dogman and Sasquatch mimic human voices? Not that I've heard.
A little bit. Only stuff that I've heard from Morg on Morg's channel. I get into him quite a bit. He's pretty interesting, his information. I don't agree with everything he says, but you know what I mean? Like I watch it to learn, and I'll pick up different things and read about it, you know? Mr. Anderson. I mean, yeah, you've heard they can, but I've heard that a bunch of other shit too. So it's like I've heard they can't, I've heard they can. The people that I've heard they can, I don't believe. I know that Dogman or Bigfoot do owls because the guy that I interviewed that was from Idaho, he kept saying the owl man. And I'm like, what are you talking about, owl man? I'm like, owl man? Like, I'm thinking a bird, you know, a big fucking bird man. And he's like, no, Bigfoot. He goes, they communicate in this weird language when they're hunting behind my house. Is that the channel? I'm not a fan of that channel, if that's the channel. Morg is way better, Mr. Anderson. Check him out. You would like him. The fucking information is spot on. Hang on one second, Brittany. All right. I just put my info underneath Shauna Rain and above Chris. Sorry, 59th. Oh my God. Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. Brittany, ask away if you have any questions. I like I said, there is no experts in this field, but if I can send you some information and some books to read, you'll get. Even though I have a YouTube channel, I think the most information you'll get is from books. To be honest with you, you know, and especially books that are not written by YouTubers, to be honest. So, and like, yeah, exactly. 59th. Exactly. Like I hate saying it, but like some of the best books that I've ever read are not even cryptid books. Like there's a book. Jesus Christ, I just knocked everything fucking down in my house. This book, I found this book. I don't know if you guys can read it. The Early History of Jackson County, Georgia. The writings of the late G.J.N. Wilson, embracing some of the early history, Jackson County, first settlers, right? I found this book, Dogman Phenom. It is connected, Shauna. Everything in this field is connected. From paranormal to Bigfoot to Dogman to UFOs to everything. There's a connection. Portals 100%. But this book right here, I found this book randomly. And listen to this. Thank you, Chris. This is fucking nuts. So I open up this page. And this is an actual book. Once again, this is a historic book. This is not a cryptid book, right? To further show that the squirrely high values, okay, where is the log? Okay, here. The howl of the savage and always hungry wolf, the spring of the stealthy panther with its morbid thirst for human blood, and the great black bear sniffing around at midnight in search of something to devour, and occasionally giving his ugly growls, were constantly a terror to all of those who heard him. As all of these animals had a mortal dread of fire, the only way to keep them at a distance while the pioneers were asleep was to keep a fire burning in the yard. Truly, many were killed. While the wolves, panthers, and bears gave the first white settlers of this part of the county much trouble, still another creature whose existence has often been disputed inspired those who profess to have seen him with more fear than all others combined. It was the Wog, W-O-G, not Woog, W-O-O-G, as it's been sometimes called. Many of the people who have first lived at and several miles around Old Jug Tavern from its first settlement at about 1809 claimed to have seen it at their home. As a character of the people who first lived there will be shown as this narrative progresses, the reader will be as much lost to know how he can afford to dispute their word as he is to believe what they have said. At any rate, the writer tells the story as it was told to him, but perhaps with little more evidence than any reader has. The Wog was said to have jet black long hair about the size of a small horse, but its legs were shorter, the front ones being some 12 inches longer than the hind. This gave him something of an appearance of a huge dog sitting on its tail, and when walking seemed to require him to carry forward one side at a time, so hunched over. His tail was very large, all the way to the same size, and at the end there was a bunch entirely white hair, at least 8 inches. It was larger in diameter than the tail itself. Whether sitting, standing, or walking bipedally, this curious appendage was a constant motion from side to side, not as an appendage was in constant motion side to side, not as a dog wags its tail, but with a quick upward curve which brought it down with a whizzing sound that could be distinctly heard, least when 25 to 30 step distance. But the most distinguished feature of this horrid tale was that it revealed the presence of the monster in the dark. The only time he ventured to go abroad, the great red eyes were repulsive, but not so much as its forked tongue, the prongs of which were thought to be 8 inches long and sometimes played in and out of its mouth like that of a mad snake. So if you think about what this book, once again, this is a historic book. It's nothing based on cryptids. This is truly a fucking historic book. It talks about a dog man. I think some, but not a lot, Shauna Rain. I think very, very little, to be honest with you. Maybe like 0.5%, maybe. If that. I think a lot of the 411 is portals. This is all, that testimony was taken from like 1800s. This book was originally written in 1914. This book was originally written in 1914. So, all right, 3-hour live stream, guys. Thank you. I had a blast tonight. It's a hard book to find, Kathy, but if you can find it, it's worth it. Oh, I was just hiking there, Paul. Nothing happened to me. I just went hiking there with my family. I had my experience. My dogman experience was in upstate New York, where I live. I have family that lives in Maine. Like my great grandfather was a bootlegger, so we have property in Maine, on Mount Desert Island. But I grew up here. That's where but I've hiked up there. So I will be, Jan. I promise. I promise. All right, guys. Thank you for another amazing live stream. I appreciate everything that you guys do. Aramic, are you still here? Thank you for everything. Delirium, are you here still? Thank you. If Paul takes a hike, if my great granddad was not a bootlegger and didn't buy the property in like the early 1900s, we'd never be able to have a house there. So it's luck, you know what I mean? But all right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. AI Zilla, be careful. Stay safe, and I love you guys all. And thank you once again for a great live stream.